we are professors, academics, you guys too. And we do have, as Stephanie pointed out, a development arm that's trying to get it out, because universities, that's not really what their business is all about, is maintaining software for other people. That's not what they do. So what we're going to talk about today is synchronous collaboration, and we're going to talk about the following. First off, what we do is under attack. Public education is under attack. Second, we're going to talk a little bit about pedagogy, technology, but technology is pedagogy neutral. How it gets used, that's the question. And we're going to talk about sort of two fundamentally different ways to use technology. One way is the more traditional way. And if you look at the personalized learning, by and large, blended learning, you look at it, it's pretty traditional kind of pedagogy. We are working in Singapore, and actually a number of schools in the United States, with a different pedagogy, learn by doing pedagogy, more modern pedagogy, even though John Dewey's quite old. And
Says Elliot.
Says Elliot, yeah, right. That's not right. And then we're going to talk about sort of the next turn of the technology crank. What's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 4 years on the internet, on the apps? What's going to happen? Synchronous collaboration.
Because in fact, we're going to give you the synchronous collaboration apps that you can use anywhere, and they're free.
And in fact, if you want, while you're doing this, while you're listening, if you have an iOS device, go to the App Store and download WEMAP, WeMap. If you have an Android device, download WEMAP from the Android Google Store, okay? We will try this at the end. We're going to get everybody together in one synchronous collaboration session, and we'll do that. Okay, so okay, here we go. There's a book, of course there's a book, by Golden and Katz, and the title is The Race Between Education and Technology. And it's a book about economics. It will guarantee to put you to sleep. It's about 2.5 inches thick. Any two or three pages, absolutely soporific. But the argument they make is this. There's a clear link between the number of high school and college graduates produced in any modern society and economic growth. And about 2 weeks ago in the New York Times, Eduardo Porter said a simple equation. More education equals more income. It's really clear the value that we produce for people. Now, it's not just about the money. This is John Dewey's book in 1916, Education, Democracy and Education. And Roosevelt said the following: democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choice are prepared to choose wisely. The real safeguard of democracy, therefore, is education. That's what we do. We prepare for democracy. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on. If you looked at the New York Times, again, this liberal rag, right? And the magazine section, yeah, you know. If you looked at their magazine section, the cover about 3 or 4 months ago, it said, here's a school, and it said, your idea here. That the assumption is that we're so bankrupt in education that anybody's idea about how to educate is as good as anybody else's. That's the message they're giving?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, yes, that's the message. But how horrible is that? Right? How horrible do they think that they don't understand that education is a profession, a very important profession? And here's another one. And this is the Education Life magazine. And it says, do disrupt, not do not disrupt. And this is Clayton Christensen and his institute, where he's written books called Disrupting Class, where education has all these inefficiencies. That's his whole argument, is about inefficiencies and about getting rid of inefficiencies with technology. This is the context in which we are working these days.
So what Elliot said to begin with is that the technology is, the technology is pedagogy neutral. It doesn't make any difference how you use it. If you want to use it for didactic and just add a few websites, you can do that. Or if you want to try and do something more constructivist, more anything different, you basically have three things. You've got the children, you've got the technology, and you've got the content, the stuff that they need to learn. Either content or 21st century skills or both. But you can choose how you do it, either with a traditional methodology or something a little bit better.
And so let's look at this new stuff that is very, very potent these days called blended learning, personalized learning, where each child is going to get their own learning. Here is the Clayton Christensen Institute. And let me read from their front page on education. Through the lens of disruptive innovation, its research aims to transform monolithic factory model systems into student-centered designs that educate every student successfully and enable each to realize his or her fullest potential. Nobody could disagree with that statement. And they're trying to get rid of, remember, monolithic factory models. This is a school system in Arizona called the Carpe Diem schools. This is what they do. Now, you ask the question, how long do those children sit there? Half to 3/4 of a day. There's 4 teachers in the whole school.
There are 257 children in this particular school, and there are 4 teachers because they don't need the teachers to do any kind of instruction. The instruction comes completely from the computer. That's why they're wearing the headphones and they're in their own cubicles.
And the cost of instruction is about $2,000 per child. Test scores, by the way, go up. Drill the hell out of them. Well, that's one of them. How about this one? This is personalized learning. This is on the internet, advertised as personalized learning. It's still telling stuff to kids. If it's not a teacher, then it's the computer telling stuff to kids. And we know that doesn't work. Now watch this one.
That's my favorite. See, if they're really little, then you can squeeze more of them in at a table because it's only the computer that takes up the space. They're so little and looking up at the screens. These are first graders.
Kindergarten.
Oh, excuse me. These are kindergartners. Kindergarten students doing personalized education.
So again, technology is neutral, pedagogy neutral. You can use it for one way. Let's talk about another way.
John Dewey. We're big believers in John Dewey because he said, teachers, give the pupils something to do, not something to learn. And the doing is of such a nature as to demand thinking. Let them do something that helps them learn. Learning naturally results. So where can we get that to happen?
The focus, by the way, is not on content. The focus is on 21st century skills, learning how to learn, because
according to the U.S. Department of Education, 65% of the children in grade schools are going to be in jobs that don't yet exist. Now think about that. How can we possibly train children for jobs that don't exist if we're teaching them stuff instead of teaching them how to learn?
They know when the War of 1812 is. They know who's buried in Grant's tomb. I mean, we got that. We can do that. That doesn't help them get in their lives. So, Ministry of Education in Singapore is enlightened. They have now Master Plan 3. They have realized that while they do score very, very high internationally on all the tests, and their pedagogy is as direct instruction as you're ever going to see, Cathie can tell stories about that, they do realize that they need to change. And they have now in their 3rd master plan where they're saying if we want creative, imaginative, entrepreneurial children, then we need to change from a direct instruction pedagogy to an inquiry pedagogy where the focus is on self-directed learning and collaborative learning. We're working with Qualcomm and their wireless reach project in the funding of the project. And
God bless them.
God bless them, right? And we're working with Dr. Chikit Louie at the National Institute of Education and his colleagues in this project. We've been there since 2008. We're going there in 2 weeks. We go there 3, 4, 5 times a year because they want to change. They have the commitment to make a difference, to make a change.
All right, so this was one of the, people used to say, what can you possibly do? These are children in 3rd and 4th grade, and they're using smartphones. What can you possibly do on a smartphone? It's only this big. But in fact, this was one of the original lessons. And every one of those tiles on that screen represents either a resource, so when the children click it, it's instructions or it's a link to a YouTube video on how something works, and this happens to be a science lesson on the plant system, how plants grow, how plants feed, etc. Or the tile is an activity for children to do. It might be a concept map. This was Microsoft. This is because Singapore is a Microsoft country, so everything that happens there is Microsoft. So they had Word, they had Excel, but when you click the tile, it would open the activity that they're supposed to do. The children would do the activity, and then when they close, it would always bring them right back to their lesson page. So they always knew exactly where they were going. They knew all the components of the lesson. They didn't have to do them in any order. And when they left the lesson to go out to do something, it always brought them back. And every part of the lesson, whether it was pictures they've imported to support their thesis in this lesson, or if it was a video that they made, in this case, about how plants feed, everything is attached to this. So they were never looking for files and where do I go? Totally self-contained lesson. Because again, these are 3rd and 4th grade students.
So notice, by the way, the bottom picture, it looks like 10 dendrils hanging down. That's the roots of a tree. And the child was walking home after school, was walking home, saw the tree, knew that they were doing the plant, took the phone out of the pocket, took a picture, put the phone back, and continued walking. That's the litmus test for what is a mobile device, because that's what the kids do. After school, in effect, they'll see real concrete world images of the abstract notions they learn in the classroom. And the phone, the mobile phone, allows them to relate the abstract world in classroom to the concrete world outside. That's the mobility. That's the value of the mobility. All these devices. Now, as Cathie said, this is an old picture. We still can't do this today on our new devices because there's certain technological reasons you can't even do this. But the kids all said, this is what we want. This has all my stuff. I never lose it.
That's right. I never lose my stuff.
Some more pictures of the transformation that happened at Nanchao, that is happening at Nanchao, engendered by the mobile device.
Well, and you see the children, they have all their tools on the desk. It's not just their smartphone. They've got their smartphone, they've got their pencils, they've got their papers, they've got their other things, because it's a group. They use whatever tool they need at the particular time. So they've got options. You have one child sitting at the end. He's reading something himself. He doesn't happen to be participating with the other students in that activity. But it's fine, because you're supposed to use all the toys in the toy box, not just one.
It is rubbing.
Sorry.
Okay, another transformation. There's a bunch. We're only going to go through a few today. But there's a whole sequence of transformations that have happened at that school, moving from direct instruction to inquiry pedagogy.
And one of them is on the part of the teachers, because you know that the teachers are the keepers of the castle. It doesn't make any difference how wonderful your innovation is or what it can do. If the teachers are not fully on board, the students will never see it. And so to have a teacher say that teaching is fun now, because they're using the technology, they're using inquiry. And what they actually said was, I go into class and I ask a question, and a student gives me an answer. Well, then that's the path I have to take. I respond to that question, and then the conversation goes from there. I know where I need to go with this, but it's just a question of how I get there. And then in the next class, if I ask the same question, a student gives me a completely different answer, so now I'm going down a different path. And in fact, teaching is fun. It's not the same thing 5 times a day in 5 classes, just verbatim. It doesn't happen that way, so it's fun.
Tell them about the direct instruction, how they really do it, how they really do direct instruction.
Well,
listen to this.
Typically, and this is science, they give them a worksheet, but then the teacher will sit there and read the answers to the children for the worksheet, because they really don't want them to have the wrong answers. And so they give them, and then they'll talk about those things, and then the children go home and memorize that, because memorization is key. Those children are absolutely duty-bound to memorize all of that information, because they have to be able to spit it back on their primary school leaving exam.
And this is the transformation that is happening at that school where the teachers don't do that. Oops. Now, there's a set of transformations I said. And really what's happened at the school is a cultural change. It's not just technologies being used. It's not the teachers' attitudes have changed. The whole way of educating the children has changed. It's a cultural change. And this is now 5, 6 years into it. We are moving on, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The question will be, will it stay? Will it continue? Will it endure? What will happen? And of course, things will change. The principal is now moving on to another school. That's all very scary, right? The leadership is changing. How will this happen? But because, what will happen? But because it's so embedded in the culture, we feel that, in fact, it will endure. It will be sustainable.
But one of the things they asked for was collaboration. And 2014, 2015, they're adding more schools, but we're still going back and trying to fulfill what they asked for, and that's the collaboration. They're doing inquiry pedagogy, and they've adopting this Collabrified MyDesk. That's the software they're using, and that's the software we're going to give you.
So they are scaling up. They're putting new money. They're getting new schools, and they're going to try to take what we've done at Nanshao and move it to other schools.
Because, again, they want children to be able to collaborate with each other, and not just asynchronously. We'll talk about the differences between the two.
Okay, as a summary, the technology is, again, neutral pedagogically, but they have used it as a catalyst for inquiry. Every child having a mobile device 24/7 connected to the internet, and that is their inquiry device. When the children have a discussion and they have a question, they say, let's ask the phone. Instead of asking the teacher, which is what you tend to do, right, in school, you ask the teacher. They don't do that. They ask the phone. They pursue inquiry. And the focus, again, is on skills. Now, the next big turn of the technology crank that Cathie was talking about is going to be synchronous collaboration. Technology will support that. Let's talk about that now.
So what's the difference? Web 2.0 was asynchronous. So you've got things like texting, where I text, and then you respond whenever you get a chance. I post to Facebook, you read it whenever you get a chance. It's totally asynchronous. However, social 3.0, which is the next turn, is synchronous, which means the best example is the Google Docs editor. We can both be editing. Problem with Google Docs editor in grade 3 is it's a little bit of overkill for them. It's hard for them to manage. So, what can we do?
We believe that in the next 2 to 4 years, this is a prediction, you can take this to the bank. In the next 2 to 4 years, every website and every app will be Collabrified. And the reason is, why? Technology can do it. The networks are now strong enough, 4G. The devices are powerful enough. You've got dual and quad core devices. Every website will be Collabrified. You're going to use HTML5, you're going to use JavaScript. Every mobile app, you're going to press a button and you're going to be connected to somebody. This is just one of those technologies that is just going to happen. This is the next turn of the crank.
And when we say Collabrified, what we mean is you and I are both in it, just like you are in Google Docs. If we are drawing a picture of the water cycle, you're drawing at the same time I'm drawing. What I draw appears on your screen, and what you draw appears on my screen instantaneously. So we literally are working in the same space at the same time.
And we're going to do this in about 15 minutes.
That's right, you're going to do it. Okay, and they say that learning is in the conversation, because while the children are collaborating, they must be speaking. The 4 C's from the 21st century... Partnership, yeah, Elliot said it. There's 4 C's: communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. And collaboration is different than cooperation. Collaboration means that children come away with a shared understanding. That should be the product of this, a shared understanding of whatever it is you're talking about.
And here is two concept, oh yeah, right.
That's okay. Two concept maps, and it's exactly what it looks like. When you've got 2 tablets, if we're drawing a concept map, they should be identical. Now, as it happens, these work they're cross-platform. So because of differences in screen resolution, you know, it may not look exactly the same. But you basically have the same thing. You and I may be sitting across the table from each other talking as we do this, or you may be at home and I'm at home, or I'm the sick child at home and the class is doing it, but I can participate too because we don't have to be co-located in order to do this. All we need is an internet connection to be able to build. And that is the cupcake, because these apps are written as native apps, either iOS, Android, Word, Windows Phone 8, but they're also browser-based, but they're written in that native for that particular device. However, if you want the icing on the cake, if you want that synchronous collaboration, you must have an always-on internet, because it requires that internet connection. And that's the biggest drawback in schools that we found, is that they don't have that constant wireless capability. So that's the only thing that holds this back from everyone being able to do it.
And those apps at the top, the names, if you go to the iOS App Store, you can download those apps today, and they're Collabrified. We have to put a plus at the end because the name WeWrite and WeSketch was already taken, so we call it WeWrite Plus and WeSketch. WeSketch is a drawing and animation app. WeWrite is a very, very simple collaborative text editor. And this is one of the schools we're working at. It's 7th and 8th grade science, St. Francis Catholic School. Sister Rebecca, she's not in one of these. But what the children are doing is they're reading a science textbook. Their heads are down, but they're talking out of the side of their mouth as they work together, outlining the chapter using the WeMap, the concept mapping program. As Cathie said, they're constantly talking so they don't step on each other's toes. Now, if you look at the boys, however, they don't talk as much. And it's fascinating to look at gender differences. It's fascinating to look at the beginning of the school year. The children don't know how to work together. They'll argue, oh, no, this is the right way, but they won't make an argument. But by the end of the school year, they have learned. The teacher works with them about what constitutes an argument. How do you justify your position? And that's how they learn to work collaboratively. This is first graders. We're using this down as low as first graders. And it's hard to read, I know, but the children actually are typing this in with the help of a teacher. But you can see they're pretty small. They're using iPads, and they're brainstorming a KWL chart. What do you know? What do you wonder about? What have you learned? And they use KWL, KWL, literally every day to reflect on what they've learned.
And the real difference in first grade is that your teacher's very organized. I think that's by definition first grade teachers are. And they're very organized, and they tell the children what color font to use. And you know, they actually give them a little card and say, join this group, so that there's 4 of you at this table. That's your group. They tell them what group to join, and they give them a color and say, this is your font. And first graders can run with it, with that little instruction.
This is 6th grade. And this is going to be a little more detailed. Cathie's going to go through this one. What they're doing is the following. Take an iPad, take an Android tablet, hold it landscape, cut it in half visually, and on the left half, you can have a simulation, like molecules. And on the right will be a tool, like a writing tool. It could be a video. So you basically have 2 screens on your Android or iPad tablet. And we call the tool We Investigate. Okay? And this is 6th grade science. Matter and molecules. The kids are learning about states of matter, solids, liquids, gases, what have you. There were 3 weeks, 12 lessons in total, start to finish. I can show you the test scores. Of course they went up. Of course they went up. But that's not the interesting part. What's interesting is watch this conversation between it's literally these 2 young ladies, how they're working together. And again, Cathie said, what's on one screen is exactly on the other. And notice that what they're watching initially was a simulation of molecules. As the heat goes up on the molecules go faster and faster and faster. And then what happens, you switch states. You go from solid to liquid, liquid to gas. And on the right is a video of a steaming cup of coffee. Now watch.
And it shows the molecules moving. But what you see on the left is the conversation. But the important thing is what they're drawing over on the right. The first one over on the top left of the screen looks like there's some brown stuff. Well, what happened was that Rose drew a line because Elaine was saying, I don't understand what is this all about? And Rose is explaining to her, see this line? That's the water line. But Rose was saying, well, I don't understand. You know, the water's at the top of the cup. No, the water's not at the top of the cup. See this black line that I drew? This is the water line. So there's stuff up above it, but it's the molecules moving, it's turning it into steam, and so on. Well, then on the right, and she's saying, look, the water level is going down in that cup because it's very, very hot. The liquid is very hot. And as more of it evaporates, the water level goes down. And then she moves down. And the water level keeps moving down as more of it evaporates until you get to an empty cup where all of the liquid has evaporated, because that's the way it works.
And then you know you could just get a big eraser, because she said Rose is trying to be nice to Elaine, and okay, maybe I'm wrong. But no, Elaine gets it. All right, so let's draw it being that line. What's going on here is literally when Rose draws the line, Elaine sees the line being drawn. That's the synchronicity, the power of the synchronicity. And like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? And then again, this conversation ensues, and at the end, thanks Elaine, that was such a perfect wave. In fact, they come to, both of them have this shared understanding at the end because of the conversation that was engendered by the drawing of a line.
Okay.
And now, some benefits of collaboration.
Yeah, that we have seen in the classroom. First is that students help clarify another idea, just like in that particular conversation. I don't know exactly what's going on. We're watching a video, but if we work on it together, then you're going to help me understand it better. Or I just get a new idea. You say something, I'm thinking, that's right, and that makes me think that this. So seeing other people's ideas at the same time, students get new ideas. And it's this feeding off of each other. They just keep going because students tend to feed off each other when it's not asynchronous. If you post something and then I have to come back and do it later, it loses some of that spontaneity. So
people say to us, why in the 3 children does each need their own device? Why can't there just be one device? And the response that we see from the kids is that each child has the equal opportunity to say something. And so the child who's quiet, who's shy, they can make their point just as easily as anybody else. Because when they put something on the screen, everybody sees it.
Right.
Now, we're going up a level too. We've developed a collaboration software development kit, an SDK in the software jargon. And what that means is that you can have whatever app you have. Some folks were showing us a number line app recently. And we said, oh, using our software, you can collaborify it and make that number line app useful for more than one person to work together. And so if you're interested in using it, it's available, free to use in education. You can do it.
So if you're using something that you really like, that you think would benefit by collaboration, then talk to us, we can do that.
And this sort of another little vignette. This happens. Kids are at home. They're studying. And you know this child is going to hit a bump, going to get confused, doesn't know what to do next. And what do? Well, they could ask their parents, which then sometimes engenders a fight, right? Because they disagree. Or they just say, oh, well, I'll wait till tomorrow and I'll find out tomorrow. But you can hook the kids up. They pick up phones, right? They talk to each other. But it's not that simple. You want something more. So we have a program called Yes We Can. Oops, there it is. K-A-H-N.
And we have to spell it differently because the Khan Academy does not like us using their name, even though it's for their videos. But go ahead.
So on the left side of the screen is a video, is a Khan Academy video. On the right side of the screen is a sketch pad. So let's say the children are watching a video together about fractions, right? And they could be sketching the fractions on the right side of the screen while talking to each other, while watching the video.
Or they can pause the video and do something else on their sketch pad. They can talk about something that just happened in that video. Stop it and let's talk about this thing, because this is what I don't understand. Here's the part right here. And their conversation can ensue.
So, in fact, you never have to learn alone again. That's, in some sense, the power of the next turn of the crank. You don't have to be alone, even if you're not co-located. You can talk into the device, which will have the voice over IP, and now you can, you say, well, that's like Skype, and Skype is a wonderful tool, right? You can talk to anybody, but you have to talk to somebody in the context of doing something. That means you have to collaborify the app or the website. Here is another example of a collaboration tool. We have a simulation called a participatory simulation called Cooties, and it helps kids understand how diseases are spread. So in fact, click, 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 click. Now look at the bottom picture. These are first graders. Each has an iPad, and what they do is they touch the top of each of their iPads together, and they count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they have, quote, met. What has happened is a germ has been exchanged. Either a germ, it'll be
a message has been exchanged.
Right. Either germ-free or germ-laden. And then they'll meet some other child, and then they'll meet some other child, and then they'll meet some other child, and eventually everybody gets sick. And then the question is, who made me sick? And they come to understand, even first graders, that I can get sick from someone I never met. And now, I mean, this is in the headlines. The U.S. fears of Ebola closes schools and shapes politics. I mean, this Ebola thing, right, is huge. It's huge.
Especially if you're from Dallas.
Right. And how do the kids understand Ebola? It turns out the more Ebola is more and more deadly, the sicker the person gets, and it's the most deadly when they're dead. It's a very unusual disease. And these are very serious issues, right? And kids need to understand some of them. Now, we talk to some of the teachers and say, the children they don't want to talk about Ebola. It's too scary. Oh, interesting. There's something that's literally too scary. You can't talk about it in a classroom. Very interesting, very interesting. But this tool allows you to explore the relationships of infectious diseases and how they're spread. Now we're going to end. A couple slides, and then we're going to do something hands-on.
Everybody.
In 2010, we made a prediction at a conference like this. We said within 5 years, every student in every grade in every school in the United States, and this is just sort of the developing nations, it could be Finland, it could be the UK, will be using a mobile learning device, a mobile computing device, 24/7.
Elliot made this prediction.
Yeah. Well, we don't feel that the 10-inch iPads are really a mobile device. Those are transportable devices. They sit nice in the cart. But remember the litmus test. Child's walking home from school, sees something interesting, takes the device out of the pocket, takes a picture, puts it back. If the device is in the backpack, it's a little more difficult to do that. Now, the 7-inch tablets are very interesting.
Yes, because we have people walking down the street with headphones on, carrying this device, either listening to something or doing something while they've got their headset on. So the 7-inch is looking to be like it really is a mobile device.
Yeah, it's interesting. And the issue is the device ready at hand? Is it really just part of you? And the prediction, we're wrong. It didn't happen by 2015. But we're going to make it again. By 2020, there is no question this is going to happen.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
The reason is, right, the costs are dropping dramatically. And now what you're seeing is the following.
Yeah, you've got this Holy Grail is coming together. Hardware, you've got BYOD. Some schools are buying, but you've got lots of people and lots of schools where children are bringing their own device. The software, by the time you get HTML5 and JavaScript, you're going to have device-agnostic apps. Wow, can you imagine being able to access it regardless of what device you're using?
And we'll demo this. If you have a laptop or a mobile device, we're going to put a URL up here, and we're all going to work together on something.
Regardless of what device you got.
Doesn't matter what device you got, doesn't matter what browser you got, we're going to work together in a few minutes.
That's assuming that the network is going to work. I know that's an assumption, because the networks, in most cases, when you get these three things all working, then in fact we can do this, no problem.
But then the question is this.
What are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep doing, you've got fabulous technology. You've got an iPad. Are you going to use it to do flashcards? Or are you going to do something, are you really going to take advantage of all the cool things that it can do and do that? We don't know.
80%, the research was done at the Gans Cooney Center in New York. Joan Gans Cooney Center. They did Sesame Street, folks. They did an estimate, 80% of the apps, educational apps for the iPad, are drill and practice apps. 80%.
That's
so
bad.
now, okay.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's try this. Just give me a second here. If you've got how many of you have a mobile device? An iPad? Okay. If you'll get your mobile device and download WeMap, either at the iPad store or at the Google store. Just take two or 3 minutes and then do the downloading, and then I'll show you what to do.
You can do it here, and I can do it here.
Yes, oh yes, please.
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I'll do it.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Oh, should I use one of these non-mobile devices?
Oh, you're gonna have to get it on the internet.
Oh, okay.
Here.
I can do it.
Here, use this one. This is because it's got cellular, maybe. You have to click. Pardon me? No, just WEMAP. Yeah, I know there's another. The names are very funny, the way it works. Just hold on. You're going to get there. We're going to get there. Okay. Does everybody? You have the.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, you have to get it on though. So. How many of you have WeMap downloaded and you've touched it? Okay.
Oh, now this is scary.
On the bottom right.
This one has tape on 3/4, duct tape on 3 corners of the iPad. Not a good sign.
On the bottom right is an orange button. Find and join session. Please touch that button now. If you have iOS, it asks you for display name. You need to put your name in there, by the way. Sorry. You have to put your name in
One
there.
came on, okay. Okay, go ahead. You just go ahead.
Okay, so now you got a screen, and in this, there's I'm stumbling from words here. There's a blank. Touch your finger into that blank, and the teacher's name in this particular case is AACE. We're at the AACE conference. So you're going to join a session called AACE, and then after you type AACE and then touch the magnifying glass, I hope people are doing it. People are doing it. You're going to see table 1, or you're going to see, what did I call it? Ballroom C. Then tap on Ballroom C, and now you're going to join, and people are already joining. And we're going to do a concept map of the presidency of the United States. Why not? And so what you do is you take your finger and draw a circle, and a node will pop, a dialog will pop up, and then touch in the word title, say something for a title, and then pick a color, and then say save. And now you can see Alfonso wants to be president. Okay, is that a Democrat? Someone create the Republicans. Now the Democrats I think are blue, typically, not red. And I'll tell you who's in the session now. We have 18 people joined. All these people have joined. Look at this. This is great. Look at this.
What are we on now?
AAC, WeMap.
WeMap, okay, thank you.
Find and join session. AAC. Sorry.
Giving me a tutorial. What's the teacher name?
Sweden's here. Okay.
What's the teacher name?
AACE.
A lowercase?
Yep, doesn't matter on this one. Okay. Obama. Now you can see, as Cathie mentioned, screen resolution's different. On your left is an iPad, is an Android screen, and on the right is an iOS screen. Now, so to make a connection between, you draw a line like this, and we'll say save, and now you'll have a line. And now you see it appeared in both. We are all together working together. Now we're not talking, so somebody is going to step on somebody's toe, or a boy will delete everything. That happens in classrooms. They do. And there is a way to get it back, but it's a longer story. You can save the file that you're working on locally, Or you can send it as a PDF, as email, somewhere else. Oh, Cathie's joined. There you go. Thank you very much. I mean, we do this when she's on the phone. We're on the phone. She's in Texas, I'm in Michigan. It's a little unnerving to do this. If you've used the Google Docs editor, you know what I mean by it's a little unnerving to see what somebody else is doing at the same time. And this one is a little more locksteppy because you create a node and you post a node. But when you're really doing, let's say, we write or we sketch, it's much more analog. You can really see what the other person is doing right at that second. It's a different way to work. And our prediction is 2 to 4 years, every single app will have this. I don't know if you're aware of everybody's aware of the company called Amazon. They have a tablet called the Fire. And on the Fire, they have what they call the Mayday button. And the Mayday button connects you to a salesperson. And so they're using synchronous collaboration to support social shopping, because they feel that that's where the real value of the synchronous collaboration comes in, will be in shopping, in selling you things you don't need. As it turns out,
I know all about that.
our company is doing the same thing. So, but in education, it's free. This is free. Do it. You can use it. Look at all this stuff. Now, I'm going to put a URL up. How many of you have a laptop with you? Or it doesn't even matter. You can use your browser in your mobile device. I got to put this down because I got to give you a URL. I got to think for a minute where I put it.
You forgot you were coming here today?
Thank you, Cathie. At 1 o'clock, we're going to have a workshop where we're going to do this in a little more reasonable fashion. I mean, that's so crazy timing.
That's pretty amazing, though, that you can get, we've had, I think we had 30 some odd people, 32 people or more, just from anywhere joining a session. So imagine, if children are at home working together. Now we're not we're talking here, but they can still talk to each other. And it doesn't make any difference what the app is. If there's something that you do as a teacher or something that you think would really benefit your children, some app that they do, we can add this collaboration so that they are indeed in the app at the same time, not just sharing a screen. They're in the app live at the same time, working together.
Okay, if you type in to your browser, tinyurl.com.
Wait a minute, I'm going to Safari.
Go to Safari.
Oh, here it is.
tinyurl.com, KPF.
Wait a minute. Tiny URL. Okay. Tiny URL.
KFP.
Tiny.com.
Oh, I got it wrong. Sorry.
Tiny, see? Why you should go slow. tinyurl.com.
KFP.
Slash? Is that a slash?
Y.
Wait a minute, got to find the slash on this one.
77. There it is.
What is it?
KFP YF77. If you type that in, then you'll see the word water cycle.
Give me the URL one more time.
tinyurl
Yeah,
slash KFP.
Wait a minute, got it. KFP, lowercase. Okay.
YF
YF
77.
77. Thank you.
Now,
It didn't match anything.
you typed it wrong, then try it again. Okay, now, how do I get a scroll bar on this to go down?
Tiny
interesting.
URL.
Oh, okay, I'm going to create a session, AACE. So you type in AACE. Wait, I created it. Now you type in AACE. And we can now work together. Is anybody there? Do you see water cycle? How many people see water cycle? Okay, you got it. Then scroll down to the bottom, AACE, lowercase, AACE, and then just make a mark. Oh yeah. Now you can touch the color bar and get a color, and you can get a color. This is a demo app. This is not a complete sketching tool, but this is a web page. We're all working together on a web page. AACE. You did it.
I did it.
You did it. You did it. We're all working together on a web page. This is all done by undergraduates, computer folks, kids. That's why we're making the prediction that in the next 2 to 4 years, this is just going to take over. Professional programmers, the whole bit, this is just going to sweep everything because now you can work together. Companies who have all their web page materials are going to Collaborify it. And they'll drop in a Collaborify, wherever there's a text editor, drop in a Collaborify text editor. Wherever there's a drawing program, drop in a Collaborify drawing program, like this. It's that easy. Now, go back to the question Cathie asked at the end. What are we going to do with this? Are we going to do flashcards? Or are we going to be more a learn by doing, more constructivist, more inquiry-oriented, project-based, whatever the term you like, pedagogy?
This is not really even beta. This is proof of concept.
Yeah.
That in fact you can do this with web pages, that you can collaborate it so everybody, because it's not to beta yet, clearly.
Right. But
he was optimistic there.
yeah. But it's going to happen.
Questions?
Okay. Questions. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Questions.
I know you're a little
Is there anything
stuck.
that you would want to do that's collaborative? What would you like to collaborate on? Or do you just want to do it yourself?
Do you, now that you've experienced it a little bit, do you agree with us, maybe, that this is going to happen? What do you think? What do you think? No, you're a little still
You can be a
not clear.
naysayer.
It's okay. It's okay.
Elliot won't say too many unkind things. Yes?
Absolutely.
You're exactly right, because my first experience was in an 8th grade classroom, and they were building a concept map. Now, there were females at one table, because this is 8th grade, so the girls congregated at tables, and the young men joined at tables. So I'm watching the girls, and they went around the table and said, okay, you be orange, you be pink, you be blue, you be green, and we'll start. They were doing the cloud system, how clouds work, and so on. And they started drawing nodes, and they're talking. I went over to the table where there were 8 young men around the table. And there was no discussion about who was going to do something. Someone drew a node in black. And the first person said, who drew that stupid node? No one admitted to having drawn that, quote, stupid node. And so somebody said, I'm going to erase it. And that's the way it happened at that table. Well, clearly what you're saying is exactly right. Those children need to learn. That's an inappropriate response. You really shouldn't say, who drew that stupid node? Can we just talk about it? But that's what we saw the very first time. The children were, allowed to, 8th graders were allowed to collaborate like that, even though they're sitting at the same table facing each other.
So we do need to figure out how to educate them, teach them how to behave, how to negotiate. If you're lucky, you learn to negotiate at the dining room table, at the kitchen table with your parents.
Yeah.
But a lot of kids don't have that opportunity anymore. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are there tasks or learning settings where you think collaboration, as great as it is, I completely agree, but maybe a cooperative learning setting where, for instance, I was thinking about writing and how much I
Can you hear this? Can you hear her question? I mean, her
It's a good point. It's
Yeah.
a very, very good point.
So I asked about tasks or settings where actually collaboration might be key and not cooperation might be key and not collaboration. And I gave as an example shared writing. And some people really love to write, sitting at the desk together, discussing every sentence as they go along. I personally hate that. I like to have an outline, have clear tasks and responsibilities. So are there settings, I mean, do you collaborate all the time, or?
No, I think the question, that is the question, and Cathie always asks the question, where's the curriculum? And the curriculum is, where's the learning tasks? And if we simply give this to teachers, most of them will say, I don't know what to do with it because of your question. And the answer is, I don't know, I don't have an answer for that. And I think that's part of what is going to happen is we're going to start to learn when collaboration is useful and when it's not.
Right, and then the task should not be on the teacher to have to try and figure this out.
Right.
That's what we have curriculum people for. Teachers can certainly contribute, but the curriculum needs to be developed and given to the teachers so that the burden is not on them to figure out how to use it.
So a whole new generation is about to happen to try and figure out how to use this. Some of it will be empirical. Our theories are not going to be good enough to tell us when this will be useful for. The outlining versus the writing is a good example. I don't know if a theory would have predicted that. And that's more of an empirical kind of finding.
Any last questions?
Okay,
Thank
you
you
very much.
Thank you, thank
Go
you,
to
thank
continue on.